Hello everyone. So in today's lecture what we are going to discuss is about so we already finished the strategic analysis for the MSDS method. Now we are going to talk about how do we explore opportunities and design system concepts. So as we had discussed, just a quick recap, the stages of MSDS are: first you do a strategic analysis, then you try to explore opportunities, then you do system concept design, then you detail that particular system, and finally you communicate the sustainability improvements and how it is supposed to be used, the proposed solution. So exploring opportunities, the aim of this particular stage is to make a catalog of promising strategic possibilities available, or in other words a sustainable design orienting scenario and or a set of sustainability promising system ideas. So very importantly, we are going to propose system ideas over here. So the system ideas can compose of ideas for how do I implement the PSS, what kind of PSS it is supposed to be, what are the service components that are going to be part of this. We do not try to focus on the product design. Of course, to implement the PSS we might require certain changes in the product design as well, but the aim of this particular project, because we are talking about sustainable PSS, our aim is to explore opportunities for system and service design related issues, and we will also identify what are the product related issues which need to be solved. At the end of the MSDS process, we can make those improvements into the product and place it into the market as a sustainable PSS solution. So the processes for doing this are: firstly we generate sustainability orienting ideas. That's to be always remembered at the back of your head, that I want to generate sustainability oriented ideas. Then outline a design oriented sustainability scenario, like how through the design or how through the conduction of that particular PSS I am getting a sustainability. So let's look at the processes and sub processes that we are supposed to follow for this particular stage. So let's look at the processes and the sub processes involved in exploring opportunities. So our first process involved is called as generating sustainability oriented ideas. What we do in this particular process is two sub processes. First we define the satisfaction unit, and then we conduct a workshop for generating sustainable system ideas. So why do we start with definition of the satisfaction unit? Because after doing the strategic analysis, after knowing what my design intervention context is, who are my competitors, I would have refined that particular phase in, and I am sure what my intervention context definition is going to be. So now I will start with defining the satisfaction unit. So say in the context of Fresh, the water purifier manufacturing company, my satisfaction unit can be defined as fresh water, providing fresh water. That is what a consumer wants, that they do not want a water purifier, they want fresh water. So my definition of the satisfaction unit is fresh water. I also write a document specifying satisfaction unit and the sub satisfactions. Thereafter we will start with workshop for generating sustainable system ideas. So we define the sustainable water. Because we have created this particular chart, we will be also having some of the sub satisfactions. If you also remember the offering diagram, we created some sub satisfactions, some actions which are the core functionality, the basic functionalities, and so on. Thereafter we get into generating the sustainability oriented ideas. Why does it suggest that let's do it in a workshop mode? Because if all the stakeholders are involved, say for example there are certain stakeholders who are engineers and specialize in developing the technology used for these water purifiers. There might be others who are from the marketing department of the company, there might be some service engineers involved, and you can also involve some customers. What will I get through this particular workshop is get the ideas from many different stakeholders. The designer also contributes towards idea generation. So we will use the SDO toolkit for creating the ideas. We call this as SDO toolkit sustainability idea table. So we will look into the SDO toolkit. Before going into the SDO toolkit, let's do a refresher of what we thought was important for this fresh water as a PSS. So we had defined that the market definition for this will be domestic use, product owned by Fresh, solar powered, no running water necessary. You may have running water, pay per liter of water consumed, smart device, so auto service activation, water testing service, which determines the type of purifier to be installed at that particular location. So this was how we started with market definition of fresh water as a PSS. So now let's use the SDO toolkit and go into details of how do I explore opportunities. So as you might remember from our previous lectures, this is the SDO toolkit. I will have to put the name of the file and say load. So now I have my freshwater PSS ready with me. So I will start filling up this particular document. So project name is freshwater PSS, my company name is Fresh. I can write the name of the designer. Then my satisfaction unit is to be mentioned. So let's say freshwater is the satisfaction unit. Now I have to describe the existing system. So my existing system can be defined as Fresh is a company which sells RO and UV based water purifiers. The customer buys the purifier and also pays for annual servicing contract. So this is the existing model for doing business. Now let's go to the case study description. So say my case study description is Fresh wants to create a sustainable PSS around water purification so that its market expands and revenue increases. Then let's come to the description of the concept. When I am trying to describe my concept, this particular chart will come out very helpful. So I will write, this was the market definition diagram that I created. Now I am going to write down as a description. So my concept description over here is Fresh wants to create a domestic use SPSS around fresh water. Fresh will own the purifier and also be responsible for the maintenance and running cost of the product. The customer pays per unit of water used. I can write more descriptions which will comply to the entire market definition. Say for example, I can write that Fresh will also train its service engineers, so the service engineers can educate people on water purification, optimal usage of water purification and so on. The system will also consist of a smart device which will auto detect whether the device is about to break down or there is a change in water quality, and will auto intimate the company to send a service engineer so that the device is always up. So once my concept description is ready, you should save it. So this this is a flash based software, so if you do not save it, you lose the data. So remember to save it. So now let's go to the environmental sustainability. So our first job was analyze and set priorities. So if you remember, we came to this particular toolkit when we were trying to understand doing the strategic analysis. It was the fifth step, fifth process in the strategic analysis step, when we were supposed to do an analysis of the current scenario's sustainability. We have certain criteria on which we can analyze the system. The criteria is given to you by this particular software. And we also had our fourth step was identify cases of excellence in that particular area. So I can also populate my case study 1 and case study 2 here. So let's go and have a look at the existing system. So my first criteria is, so you can say it is selected in green, so system life optimization. I am on checklist 1. The question says, are infrastructure with short lifespan used in the system? So you are supposed to answer the questions over here. So I can say that the filter gets blocked quite often, and this reduces the life of the filter. I can also write the reasons why it is happening so. So when you are writing this particular about the existing system, you can write about the product failures, you can write about the service failures, and you can write about the entire system's failures. Because there might be times when, because the product fails, the system fails, there might be other times when the service fails and the system fails. So filter gets blocked because, say, impurity in input water is very high. Say air locking happens at the filter because of water pressure variation. As soon as I write all these pointers, either you can do this simultaneously or you can do it step by step. So I can complete the entire analysis, then I can go to the orient the concept, or I can do it simultaneously. Let's do it simultaneously, because as designers, when we are looking at problems at the same time, we are also thinking of solutions. So let's say I know that the filter is getting blocked, so I go to the orient the concept. Here you can see system is selected, system life optimization is selected. There are different kinds of questions over here. So on system life optimization, the first question says, complement product or infrastructure with services for their maintenance, repairability and substitution. Can we think of something in this regard? Say for example, as I was talking about in our market definition, having a smart object. So say a smart object enabled service which detects filter getting blocked and sends service engineer to clear the filter. That can be one way of dealing with it, where I brought in a system into place, that the smart system enables the service from happening. Now you can also see here I have a column for service, which has another set of questions. It's also a matter of the service. So the service personnel is informed of servicing needs in advance. I can also say service engineer is provided with inventory specific to a region's requirement. Say for example, this particular company has been into business of water purifier since a long time. In different cities, because of the same problem of water quality difference, certain parts will be breaking down more often than in other cities where the water quality problem is very different in nature. Because the company already has a database, so the inventory management can be controlled with this particular database. So in that particular area, I always keep on sending those inventory items which are required for that particular servicing. Now let's come back to the system again. Okay, if it says complement product or infrastructure with services, so you can see this is a scrollable list and not necessarily you will have to write an idea over here. You might also have many more ideas than what space it gives you. So right now it has 10 spaces for writing ideas. You might have more ideas than that. So you can keep on writing your ideas below this. These are all ideas, they do not form the whole system. So now we are exploring opportunities. In the next step, when we are supposed to do system design, then we will be clustering these ideas to make system design solutions. So say for example, next one, complement product or infrastructure with services for their technological upgradability. Say for example, I realize that people might want to have cold water during summer and warm water during winter. So can my product come with an attachment which, depending on a consumer's preference, can have this is modular, so not necessarily you have to get that service, but in case you wanted hot water and cold water depending on the season, you can have the attachments, so that you don't have to use another source to do that particular activity for yourself. So you are charged higher for that particular module. And say me as a consumer, I do not want that particular product right now, but maybe after 1 year or 2 years or whenever I want it, I can get it attached. So in the system, I am having a system upgradation method. So I can have that. So now you can see I am having a modular product design. So I am writing a modular product which can heat or cool water as per requirement. Extra payment for the extra service per unit of consumption. So now I have a product related idea. I can enhance my product using this particular way, and in which my system enhances. Say complementing existing product or infrastructure with services that increase, enable their aesthetic or cultural upgradability. What can we do? Say for example, I have an idea that offer free fascia upgrades for twice in a block of 5 years. So the outer covering of the product, outer covering of the purifier, it can be upgraded free of cost. So say me as a consumer, I redo my kitchen decor and I want a different fascia for my water purifier. So the company will offer you this free of cost for twice in a block of 5 years. If you want to do that for more often, you will have to pay for it. But this complements the existing product or infrastructure with services that increase or enable their aesthetic or cultural upgradability. Offer service delivery platform for product sharing, reuse or second hand selling. Say for example, I can offer a product, so because my whole unit is about pay per unit of water that you consume, can I have a system in which if I am ready to share the water purifier with my neighbor, I am not owning the water purifier, but in this particular case for company Fresh, with one water purifier they can give 2 taps to 2 houses which are very near to each other. So Fresh has an advantage that their product cost is reducing, their service cost is reducing, cost for them is reducing. So by adopting such kind of a strategy, that is I am sharing my purifying unit with my neighbor, I can get the service at a lower cost. If that is a possibility, again it's a win-win situation, lower material, lower service impact. So let's write sharing purifier with neighbor, and so I have less payment per unit of water consumption. Let's go to the service. So what does it include in its service component are? Say, can you offer shared use of support products and infrastructures? So it's okay if you want to repeat both of them. So when I am talking about a system is usually composed of a product as well as a service component. Hence you will see many a times when you write the system, the service component is more or less implied. But it's always good that you repeat it, so that in this particular context the service part of it is highlighted more and more, like how important the service component is, so that you can get it. Again save it. You click the menu to get this menu back, and we can go to analyze and set priorities again. So I was on my checklist 1, which was our infrastructure with short lifespan used in the system. So I was trying to answer them, and then I tried to solve each and every problem. Now coming to the next question, are disposable products, packaging or support products used? So the block for answering remains the same. So say the filter is a disposable item. Now as soon as I write okay, the filter is disposable item, I might have certain ideas. So I will go to the orient the concept, and I can write in the system life optimization that what if the filter could be collected by the company and then it could be biodegraded into compost. So I make a filter which is biodegradable, for example. So I use biodegradable filter collected back by fresh, composted. Then what happens to the compost? Now consider a country of size of India. It sounds very interesting when I say biodegradable filter, fresh will collect it, compost it. Even for a city scale, the compost volume might be very high. So maybe every city, when it has a service provider for fresh, they also house this composting unit which can compost the filters. But then what happens to the compost next? So now you can realize the importance of this aspect of thinking in terms of systems. So as soon as you said biodegradable filter, it was a product intervention. Then you said that now you have to think of the system. You are thinking of it needs to be collected back by fresh. Then what happens at fresh? Okay, it is to be composted. Then what happens to the compost? Now you start thinking, okay, it's in such a big country. So maybe I outsource this whole activity. So what it is giving me over here is, if I am outsourcing, then I am not thinking anymore about the composting, what happens to the compost next. What I have to think is what kind of service partner I am going to involve, so that this composting can happen properly. And the service provider has to also tell you what happens to the compost next. Which farms does it get? How does it get to those farms? Okay, let's go back to orient the to analyze and set priorities. So the third question says, do parts of the system tend to be technologically obsolete or to be culturally or aesthetically obsolete? Again, I answer this question, come up with some ideas. Is the system individually used when it could be shared in some of its parts? Here With each of these questions, your breadth of ideation will increase. So, say I know right now that one house, one water purifier, and used on an average for 2 hours per day. So, if I see this particular value, I already know that I have 24 hours, so which means I have 22 hours more left to be used. If one house is using it for 2 hours, then I can at least, on a safer side, I can involve 10 houses to use the same purifying unit. So, okay, that triggers another idea to me, which says when you have like you had this question, offer service delivery platform for product sharing, reuse, second hand selling. So, I have an idea for that. Optimal sharing 10 households in a neighborhood, which implies that I can have cluster of house based purification system. What at service level it means? So, maybe my marketing agent now does not try to market the product to individual houses, but it means marketing to societies or housing complexes, and only then I can have like 10 houses clustered together to buy one purifier. It also has product design related implications. When we do the detailing of the system design, we will have to also identify how can I have a machine which can work 24/7. Also, I will have to consider other aspects. You do not fill up water at 2 o'clock at night. So, my effective number of hours is from say 6 in the morning till 11 at night. So, how do I detail those systems? Those aspects will become parts of detailing, and when we get into that phase of the design, we will maybe reduce the numbers of hours to be used, reduce the number of households which can be used, design the product accordingly. Does the system lack of maintaining and upgrading services? So, I know that in my current system only when the purifier breaks down. So, I know in my current system only when the purifier breaks down, there is a service engineer who is called, and the service engineer does the repair job, which might be, so today my machine breaks down, I might call in the evening and say when can you come. The service engineer will say okay, I can come tomorrow afternoon. So, for this whole period of time, which becomes around 24 hours, your machine is not working. If the service engineer comes and identifies that a particular part has broken down, which he or she does not have an inventory of, then your machine might be lying unused for a longer period of time. So, that is a existing system life optimization problem. So, if your machine which is paid per unit, paid per liter of water dispensed, if it does not work for 24 hours or 48 hours, Fresh is going to make lose money. So, now I will again go into the orient the concept part, and I will think of system ideas as well as service related ideas. So, I have a system idea over here, that smart device, before breakdown happens, service engineer gets message for repair. So, this is how we will keep on continuing. Once I have answered all these questions, so in the last one it says try, here you can put in your all other considerations. So, there might be aspects which are part of system life optimization, but in the others there might be aspects which are there, but not covered in these questions. So in others you can write down all of those points. After writing these points, you know in your current system life what is it, what is the priority. Say by looking at the pointers we have pointed out till now, if the filter is such a disposable item, here it will be also good if you write how often does the filter break down. So the filter needs a replacement every 2 months is a certain amount of cost. It requires replacement every 24 months is a different kind of cost. So if you write down those details as well, then you will be very easily able to give a priority, whether this aspect has no priority, low priority, medium priority or high priority. You need to also discuss it with your stakeholders, the promoters, and agree upon a priority for system life optimization. Once I am done with system life optimization, I will go to the next one, which is transportation or distribution reduction. Again the same system follows. Is there any excessive transportation of goods? So I answer each of those questions. I go to orient the concept, and here you can see transportation or distribution reduction. I click there. I again have questions like use digital infrastructure, example internet, for transferring or accessing information. There might be again certain idea overlap, but it is always good that you put the idea over here. So smart devices, which was part of system life optimization, can also come over here, because you are transferring or accessing information about the health of your device using the smart devices, which is transferring information to you by say using Wi-Fi network of the house or mobile network or so on. So after filling up this entire block for transportation and distribution, we will assign a priority to this. After transportation it comes resource reduction, then say waste minimization and valorization, I give a medium level of priority. Conservation or biocompatibility, say there is no priority. Toxicity reduction has a low priority. From project to project and from promoter to promoter, this optimization priority levels will vary. Then I go into orient the concept. This is a ideation board. Once you have done this ideation board, which we are talking, so we are in this particular stage, generating sustainability oriented ideas. Once you have generated lots of ideas, then we will go into system design and system detailing. Once I am done with system design and system detailing, what I do is check the concept. So in check the concept, again you get the similar kind of a box. So I am on system life optimization. I have a checklist, our infrastructure with short lifespan used in the system. So this is now of my new design system. So I will write down all the details of my new design and say how infrastructure with short lifespan has been eliminated or has been reduced, and so on. I will follow all these questions and write down my notes over this place. After, on the basis of the notes, I do a qualitative judgment of whether I have no improvement, the situation is similar to what it was before the design intervention, that is like the new design and the existing one, both of them have the same level of they are at the same level, there is no improvement. Or you can have incremental improvement is small improvement, or you can have a radical improvement, which is like a huge amount of improvement which has happened. You do the same thing with your other aspects. So let's right now just say, okay, for transportation there has been no improvement, for resource reduction I got incremental improvement, for waste minimization and valorization I got little improvement, for this one because for conservation and biocompatibility I said that there is no requirement, so I did not do much over there, so I have no improvement, and toxicity reduction I have little improvement. So after doing this we go into the radar for the environment. I click the concept check. So here you can see this is showing this has a high priority. System life optimization I had assigned high priority, and in high priority I have got a radical improvement, which is good. So now I will write in this box how did I get that improvement, because as I told you, you can print these. So in our communication phase, this becomes a very interesting toolkit to use. So I can just print this page and put it into my communication page. So how did I do system life optimization? Say for example, my system auto detects problems and service engineer repairs it before system breakdown. And this brought in, so the life of components increased from an average of 1 year to 3 years. So now I can say that this was a very high level of improvement that I had brought in because of this particular aspect. I might have many more aspects which brought in system life optimization. Although this is a very qualitative judgment that my improvement has been radical, but you need to support it with adequate numbers and proofs that because of this I would say that I have got a radical improvement. So on the toxicity reduction where I had low priority, I have a incremental improvement. On conservation and biocompatibility where I had given no priority to that, I have no improvements. It's like at the same phase as it was before this redesign activity. On waste minimization, medium and incremental impact, what I see here is in resource reduction I had given a high priority, but my improvement has only been an incremental improvement. So maybe you can again try to do something so that you can get higher improvement, or otherwise you at least know that how much improvement you have gotten. If I would have inputted the data for the case 1 and case study 2, I could have clicked these as well, and on top of it, it would have shown what is the radar diagram for case study 1 and case study 2 as well. And then I can compare that my concept versus 2 other concepts of excellence, how does it perform. So I did this activity for the environmental sustainability. You have to repeat the same with socio-ethical sustainability and economic sustainability. Let's get into right now on the socio-ethical sustainability aspect and see what are the criteria over there. So in socio-ethical sustainability analysis, my first criteria is improve employment and working condition. So are there any problems with the health and safety? Are there any problems of discrimination in the workplace? Are there any problems with workload and for inadequate wages and others? Then next criteria is improve equity and justice in relation to stakeholders. Are the stakeholders criticizing the supply system? Is the client or final user criticizing the supply system? Are there any unjust relations between the partnerships? Are there any unjust relations with suppliers, subcontractors and sub-suppliers? Next criteria is enable a responsible and sustainable consumption. Then favor or integrate weaker and marginalized strata. For each and every project, the definition of weaker and marginalized strata might differ. Say for example, if I design a product, if I design a machinery, an agricultural machinery, which is the dimensions of the machine has been designed in a manner that women cannot use that machine. So in that case, because of my design, I am marginalizing the women farmers, they cannot use it. So in that case, I say they are the marginalized people or they are the weaker people. Or say for example, in a particular context, I know that child labor will be encouraged. So they become the weaker and the marginalized strata. So say I design a machinery which requires a lot of strength, and old people do not have so much of strength maybe. So in that case I am marginalizing them. So first you identify who is being the weaker and the marginalized in the given context. Then you try to answer the questions. Improve social cohesion. So social cohesion can be between genders, between intracultural groups, between intra-generation. So first you have to identify where the exclusion lies. Does the exclusion lie in gender or cultural intracultural aspects or intragenerational aspects or any other form? And then you try to improve cohesion between wherever the exclusion lies. Is the system creating or favoring any forms of discrimination, which might be sexual discrimination, religious discrimination, cultural discrimination on the basis of gender, on the basis of age, and so on? Then the last one is empower or valorize local resources. So does the current reference system empowerize local cultural values and identities? Remember, we are in the socio-ethical dimension. I can also talk about empowerment or valorization of local resources in terms of environment, in terms of economics also. But since I am in the socio-ethical sustainability domain, I am talking about empowerization on the basis of local cultural values and identities. Does the current system offer only one solution or few variations for all regions and cultures? So different regions might require different kinds of solutions. Different cultures might require different kinds of solution, but do I provide them with only one kind of a solution, which is creating some kind of impoverishment? Does the current system have a negative impact on social well-being of the local community? Say for example, the industry which is going to make the products for fresh, is it a polluting industry which is going to have an impact on the well-being of the people? Is the current system empowerizing local economies? Is the system absorbing local non-renewable resources? So now I am also, so my last two criteria is also covering the economic aspect and the resource aspect. Because if the non-renewable resources of the region are consumed, the local people will also suffer. If the economy of the local region suffers, people are going to suffer, and others. Again the same thing, I do it for the existing system, my case study 1, case study of excellence 1 and 2. I do the orient the concept. It is always better before you start into doing this whole process, you go through all the questions. Once you have gone through the questions, while you are doing the analysis also, many ideas will trigger. So here are the questions: promote and enhance the protection of working conditions. Let's go to economic sustainability now. So the first criteria in economic sustainability is market position and competitiveness. Do you have a weak market position in the current system? So if you have a weak market position, then you have to have ideas, system level, service level, so that you can go counteract that. Are there possibilities to improve your market position that you do not use at the moment? Do you see current and future threats for your market position? The next criteria is profitability or added value for the company. So this particular aspect will help you to ideate on aspects which gives added value to the product or the product service system and to the company. You are not only thinking about your own company, but you are also thinking about all other partners. So is the profitability of the current system low for your company and other external partners? Then comes added value for your customers, because when I talk about economics, it's part of the company, the partners of the company who are providing the result, as well as the consumers who are going to consume it. Then comes long-term business development and the risks involved, partnerships or corporations, possibilities, dangers involved, and so on. Then macroeconomic effect. So say for example, it's not about your own company's product and services which can make you successful or unsuccessful. It is also about the macroeconomic level. Say for example, if the local government says, I am going to offer very good quality water to each and every citizen, so nobody needs to install a water purification system at home. So that's a macroeconomic level intervention which might have been done by the local government, as a result of which Fresh no longer can provide its services in that particular city. So, I need to identify, are there problems on a macroeconomic level, example disclosure of participants in economy, monopolistic structures, rebound effects and so on, and anything else that you can think of in this. Again, in the orient the concept, you have similar structure, you have your questions across all these different points and you come up with ideas. And finally, you can get the radar diagrams. So, let us save it and move back to the presentation. So, we are done with the workshop for generating sustainable system ideas by using the SDO toolkit. Now, our concern is satisfaction system map. So, we will discuss about how to create this satisfaction system map. Because now I have a huge pool of ideas on my idea table, I can start grouping them and again getting more and more ideas. As I get more and more ideas, because I go into the satisfaction system map and I start working on the PSS innovation map, I can again go and put those ideas back into my SDO toolkit. So, in the next lecture, we will be discussing about the satisfaction system map and how do we go ahead with it. Thank you.